Hello, breaching method at countries A through Z. There is a hyper additional name. It is more probable and practical to theorize, let alone to convict, relative to what is formally convicted, right in the place. And pretended theory, right where it is not theory because we have black people's whites of eyes, what is true always. We have the body of space slash existence showing us. It is why and how we have black people's of the same color eyes, different color eyes at the same exact time. So we can discern it. So we can discern even the fish, the birds, they have eyes. Fish have eyes just like us almost, distinct but non-distinct, simultaneous, slash per that further hyper simultaneous. And a slash part there. Nature shows us this. But our short words are faked and changed if we use them proper. Because we have been systems tactile from nature. Tactile from its identity of relationship to itself positive that way. And the value of that. But everyone has been together relative to the uses of the word groupthink. And people who hear this word that was used, because it is much deeper than groupthink. Because, and this is relative, inseparably relative, where we have black people's whites of eyes, what nature communicates, all these revelations, all kinds of things from this, not just that. And it is that by that, as that identity, that we know that countries A through Z, that everybody there, that nature is showing them where nature is where we have that same body that is every single body, to the extent we could discern. Each person knows the extent of the past that was true always. Each person knows an extent that is active now, true, always. Each person knows the value, the identity of seasons that are not even here yet. They know to an extent its value here now, true always. They know there is things about even the seasons and things about the future that we don't know. But that we will learn about, or could. And we know there's an extent to the future we'll never know about. And the same with the past. The same with active. Grouped. On a mass scale, there are so many different police forms and identities of the law that dishonestly jump into people's conversations. And this created more problems where one of the biggest causes of it is a human fact treatment nature breaching method that is worse than war crimes. And it is relative to discern that because the war crimes, the readings of the statutes, the syntax regarding the evils through history, the counters have staged collusions in many ways. We could discern this also where and how we could discern things that nature communicates. And the human fact treatment nature breaching method inside the subject of the communications of our founders and of nature simultaneously. That being and having been replaced. There were our uses of it. I recorded. Right where I recorded. Both President Trump and President Obama and all the presidents before them / chiefs know. Then they know more than me, but in many ways I recorded. I'm this way. I learned more than that. James Madison's plan. We were told. I read that we were instructed to refer to the founders as those behind and as James Madison and his plan. That's our founders. And then they went and got George Washington to agree to help them and to use that plan. No one was supposed to use their title and hierarchy I'm not blaming the president because our country, every individual voice, including the leaders of any country, no matter how powerful they could get, this has a complete possession over the fact, truth, nature, quality, aspects, nature, and styles at inside the debate, with all natures of things, inside agreements, as use / s of the differences, as the difference at location or right back at location. Because there's a use of location / s everywhere the human species body is that not one person wanted, but already from off all scientific locations, like off campuses, all exceptions. Because the people who revealed the campuses before the sciences became criminally foreign influence, nature showed them to need and appreciate those exceptions as its own. Anyone who in other words, there are little kids in New York City that can teach me, make me aware of things that they can see better than I could discern that. But knowing that the presidents could know more than me. In other words, but note this, how everyone left out the black people's rights of eyes. And there's blame with it. Know how there's blame with it. Leaving out the breaching method. And replay, and when there's debate about that, and you're entertained, everyone's self-valuing. What our founders communicated, and as James Madison, we're instructed to equivocate our founders plural as the face of James Madison, and our founders plural are Native Americans. There are proofs that this is outrightly said by the distinction between the distinction / non-distinction between president and chief / president. Every difference was employed by this breaching method. We're syntactically appreciated as where it's not appreciated, whatever. We're supposed to appreciate it within as its system, as its own body. Even anything anyone makes up has this particular hypervolume science. Apart from, and that is the difference between the order of the finite, the smallest finite detail that can be grappled with, for example, with art, or the order of the finite, the physical finite detail, where how it shows us, it's showing us with grammars of languages. It is showing us with the parts of speech of English being in hyper invisible but still discernible. But where and how it shows us the identity of the verb is where and how it shows us where we and how we need to appreciate more than one name for a verb. It's identity as a subject. Every identity is a distinct identity, hyper invisible but still discernible. This is also why those more names that we need to appreciate for the verb, like gerund and our participle. It is also individual unto itself, a grouped part of itself, and a simultaneously part of itself, only increasing volume relative to the / hyper simultaneous part of itself. The rest of the complete identity of all space / existence that we could discern, coming to, from, as, with, and for the value of each subject that we could grapple with, individually, grouped, and or simultaneously. Progressively, no. We are a quality of diffusion. where we are making, where we are its body making more of its identity relationship positive and negative. But now through systems tactical ulterior from its own. So having only remembered, having been short-circuited, it's a distinct identity of hyperpossession over all short words, especially ones with convictions, let alone with blame at the same time. Right, where, and how. A human fact should be nature breaching method is also an answer / answers inside the communications of America's founders. And regarding that plan, no one even allows people to be honest about the extortion of George Washington and worse, let alone of how the plan of James Madison that he agreed to use and to help was to force counter-extorted the other founders to be. And so there are three natures of our founders. One third of them were forced to be, including as Native Americans, but 2/3 of them were Native Americans agreeing. And that would, all agree. The Constitution unabridged, and why and how we have rights that are too numerous to have to list them. And this is distinct as Native Americans. And but it's also not distinct because they're also citizens, and hyper additionally Native Americans. But where there was syntax disalignment, including with Native Americans against Native Americans, the nature debate contains quality aspects of nature that has stayed without anyone seeing or realizing. Tactically, delusions raw too, but criminally foreign influence, tactically / hyper criminally foreign influence, fact should be nature, quality aspects in nature. As quality / qualities aspect / aspects in nature / natures, like criminal and citizens, nature's wrongdoers. And I'm saying it that way because the singular human fact should be nature, predicate acts, delivery system method. Hyper additionally, we could call it, besides just being a human fact should be nature breaching method. One of the things that nature itself and that our founders' communicated was one of the things that is true always, that slavery was about. Another thing is that no one wanted it. And that's why, in other words, why would everyone have rules? Because there's a human fact should be nature breaching method there. See, everyone never thought about why and how people could be even motivated to jump in and change what people say regarding such serious things. Let alone that and the black people's ways of life, with nature communicates replaced and other pretended. Otherwise, that body is sensed and hurt. And everyone anyway. Because everyone, to an extent, they communicate when they're growing up at each age. To an extent, they communicate. There's more than they could communicate. But to an extent, everyone communicates. They know there are all kinds of things that, we know we are have been systems, tactical, ulterior natures. When people, like with plastic bottles, say someone jumps in, well, that's my company. That's why my motivation for changing what you say. If you pay attention, for example, there are rights that we have that are too numerous to have to list. We're not supposed to be having debate about things with people that we don't even know. But there are obligations on strangers. When someone says, Connecticut's Channel 3 News attached me to fake conversations with themselves and with others about the World Trade Center attack. That is their roles with a whole bunch of different natures of organized crimes, and with interbranch family members switching and forging names. And after they had been tortured, extorted, in fact, given each other for physically enslaved since they were kids. as what is actually recorded. But in other words, this requires a quality of fact treatment nature if they want to be treated as victims, not to leave out the breaching method involved. Because they have been victim predators too, / hyper predators, because there were a whole bunch of different countries and criminal enterprises and terrorists at the same time with the same names involved. So listen again to those short words. WFSB, Connecticut's Channel 3 News. They attached me to fake conversations with themselves and with others about the World Trade Center attack. No. And I am a person who was in the Ninth Circuit Court in Manhattan, New York, right next to the World Trade Center towers, and a hotel there right before it, right before the World Trade Center attack, and other spots right next to the World Trade Center. Long term before it and short term before it, people inter-cities and intra-cities and inter-campuses and intra-campuses. And this includes fire campuses, medical campuses, private campuses. The difference is also used to hide behind and through by a breaching method, which is also true always. One of the things associated with the Black people's rights of life and the northern colonies, southern colonies, entrenched roles with it through the breaching method and with all those crazy things sustained. And then America's founders were born. And to an extent, no one still has free speech or freedom unabridged. And everyone is still forced to pretend other or to sense for the breaching method for the same reason. We can discern at these locations other things, others ourselves they're pretending, then they're shown they need to have fake motivations. And so they're bringing in sexuality. Also, because this is where people are even little kids they're bringing in sexuality. They're gonna know it's weird. It's unnatural. But they're also they don't want to start having conflicts all the time, especially where they run in conflicts. Where the people of each age won't know the people's names, they won't know how to respond properly with that. And or even if they do, with the exceptions, it's going to leave out the increasingly involved foreign names and the hyper foreign name. As humanity grouped tactical terror from how nature has a species body of individual bodies grouped, and in simultaneously, independence and unity simultaneously, and the difference of that, all group differences, not just demonstrated by itself, its identity relationship to itself, positive and the value of that only increasing. We have been systems tactical terror. It has been showing demonstrations. Those demonstrations of it are also employed effectively by the breaching method. Roles with itself through ourselves, using those nature's demonstrations to blame other things, others, ourselves for things. These are styles with uses of names at locations, areas, and states. Everywhere the human species body is, even if they don't refer to the locations, areas, and states as locations, areas, and states. There are locations, areas, and states, but now as states, abridged states from the hypernative state that shows us it forced three natures of, native founders of and then America's founders were born to get behind James Madison's plan, coupled with the Native Americans, three natures of founders. And then there were two natures of Native American founders. And then they went to force the other Native Americans and the rest of the colonists and the early states people to help, but we still have not gotten unabridged. We still will not allow free speech and short words proper and accurate regarding differences, because there are still differences racketeering roles. There's a big difference between syntax describing passions and emotions or motivations, using it by what is true always. Like if I got really mad and said, "Get what? Who disbelieves? Who disbelieves?" In other words, that we can discern a predicate acts with facts method re-employed nature's complete communications to us and reassigned the parts of it left out and changed and causing other things to be blamed on other things other than themselves. There are postures of integrity, the suits and ties names, the people of sciences from off all locations, /S. There is a human fact should be nature breaching method that we need to name as a scientific value. Beginning with, because it is a scientific value inside the communications of America's founders, again, as James Madison and as Native Americans behind him, and where and how Native Americans still don't agree with themselves about how to counter this fact should be nature wise, because we have all been separated. Campuses A through Z, and their difference. This breaching method measures and maintains, don't forget, inside the quality of debate, inside the nature of debate, too, the difference of that, quality aspects in nature, of collusions with itself, only allowed to be. But see, it employed that to have manifest demonstrations of it with other locations. This is why they still have people timing. There are people that time me to fake and change reality in my life. And it's nothing personal. They're strangers to me. But they have connections, as one's increasingly involved with predicate acts leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context and since. No one has the rights to make summaries of things like that and change them and fake them and self-value others doing and having done such to get away with it, at the same time while preventing original short words from being used. Again, WFSB, Connecticut's Channel 3 News. They have rules with various natures of digital crimes and wire crime acts and methods and behavior racketeering roles, worse than war crimes, with foreign and domestic medical families and names next to Harvard Hospital, and where they are now, Demorals Market, and where they were next to Harvard Hospital for years. And with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and other natures of agencies, and relative to where and to how they make subject treatments with names of types of police forms, and they leave out the rest and the collusions relative, because nature itself shows us and our founders communicate to us. Like, for example, which trials are about simultaneously is relative to what the slavery was entrenched distinctly northern colonies, southern colonies, and states. They had to leave that entrenched. They could only counter-extort to an extent. And they could only liberate and unify that part of us that everyone wanted to be unified and liberated, because everyone was forced to collusions against everyone around them and pretending other, all help for things that causes collusions too, with the difference of that per a method that knew that nature itself is going to continually demonstrate to us a human fact should be nature and more. A human fact should be nature breaching method and more is one of the things that is involved with and as the value of these laws, with and as the syntactical responses to them, the non-responses to them, the difference use /S roles. It is manifest as an identity theft, fraud, and slander method /S roles against every single person. This knew that any grouping of humanity that would come from and as locations, areas, and states as natures of groupthink, as nature, as postures, as names of the people of the sciences, valuing and having value. You know, the sciences use the bridge collusion slash S with syntax as and how it is actually manifested all natures of crime scenes, the worst ones, and where and how this is a hyper crime scene that we have not had formally accepted of that as that yet, because we have James Madison and our founders' plan replaced, and we have self-guided roles involved with this behavior racketeering method, worse than war crimes. Again, there's a big difference between describing syntactically and let alone describing syntactically and using passion, emotions full by what is true always, not leaving out the slightest sequence, not self-value nature debate regarding part nature to validify those qualities, aspects, and natures all through what they claim the people think at locations, areas, and states everywhere the species body stands. The ancients would teach other about the value of democracy. No, with grouping, relative to grouping differences, difference slash S. And regarding, in other words, the republic for which we stand, abridged since semi-ancient times. Prepare our minds. This is before modern religious messengers. The religious books are read like the people not with science and at campuses, because there are natures of organized crime methods that are cover-up methods, styles, needs of natures that use the religious differences and things like that, where the way the breaching method knew they would have to hide its roles with all instances, descriptions, at all locations, areas, and states, positive or negative, leaving itself out because its identity of relativity to us is an identity of relativity to positive and negative at the same time. Tactical terror than positive and negative treatments have been, where and how we could observe this. We could observe the scientific value of the human fact human nature breaching method, not just that nature. People's communications is simultaneously greater than and is more finite than what they say alone. And the courts and the police forms and the branch of government individually grouped together at countries A through Z at the same exact time with overt criminal enterprises that actually manifest and maintain words. And terrorists. See, we can observe collusions with terrorists, self-value, with counters to themselves, with uses of words like extremism and radical, where and how they have recorded criminally foreign influence and tactically delusions raw fact, human nature, quality aspects in nature, and tactical delusions as collusions. Again, at each age of fact, human nature, formally and other, we have the sciences, and we have what nature communicates to us being and have been replaced. And so this knew that nature itself would demonstrate this with each subject comes with the subject of the identity the sciences share. That identity that we share with the other species bodies. Because even if we make something up, it can't help be shared to, from, as, with, and for its system. The identity of all space / existence. Its complete identity. Again, even though we only have an extent of it that we can discern, where we have an extent of it, it comes with its complete identities only, its complete identity of relationship to itself, unabridged. Only one way. which will only stay positive unto itself, and the only increasing value of that, three ways increasing its value, as the value of every subject, is an extent of the body of all space/existence. Not just the body of Christ, for example. There are things that people learn through the nature of religion that are distinct from what the religious books say, for reasons good, but also for reasons to counter that are good, but also reasons as collusion to what they had to counter at the same time. The same way with the sciences names. Their syntax, they're leaving out exceptions, exception nature, increasingly valuing as having been, increasingly valuing the motivations of it, having been categorically, to screen what has been use /s of all locations /s. In other words, and this is recorded. In other words, that's why Fred Grisey sought me out as a complete stranger on my street. I don't know the other one's name. And he got out of my car. There were people that they do this to little kids, to take pictures of kids near other kids, put fake natures of ties to them. Where and how the difference of the overt criminal enterprise, private ones, all sides of criminal and civil cases, their lawyers, and sometimes a lot of times at the same exact time, increasingly at the same time too. The court's name switching and forging names with them at the same time, same sequence shifts. There are campuses. There are self-value uses of self-value. Everything's so crazy. So we know we make excuses for the people that we love as our educators when we're kids. And and other kids that we don't understand when they know our names, we don't know their name, and they're involved with timing, like putting fake motivations. Increasingly, a breaching method knew that nature was going to demonstrate its scientific value as part of an answer regarding motivations, syntax treatments, and uses, let alone formal ones. We're not supposed to leave out this breaching method. Wherever there are convictions, especially with, in other words, the more they try to have programs with kids and things in New York City, because kids get arrested and things like that, the more they're communicating their collusion /s on and off the campuses, right where the kids are obligated to observe that. There are predicate acts with facts methods. I'm not even a lawyer. I'm sure that Judge Napolitano will help us, but he's being lied to by the agencies and the courts. They replaced and changed what's digitally recorded. Again, they changed. There are a bunch of courts and people on off the state and next to the state and with different natures of conjunctions to the Connecticut judicial branch officers. They have predicate acts with WFSB's Connecticut Channel 3 News and intelligence associated with them next to the Connecticut Capitol and next to Fox Connecticut News and next to WTNH's FBI, involved with people all along Route 175 and at corners of streets with WTNH planting evidences next to the founding locations, like a witch trials place and Webb House, then renamed the Webb Stevens House. And motivations narratives regarding that are being used used also with other natures of organized crimes, as roles with like wire crime acts and methods, predicate acts, criminally foreign influenced, also as timed collusions between campuses through time. Former director of the FBI, Heather Hansen, will tell you, I never had a class with her. They made a fake exception with a a middle school, summer school class with a whole bunch of intelligence families all along Route 3 and associated with the founding locations, involved with her with intelligence families with home break-ins in my area. One more recent, and with people involved with planting fake things in databases, identity theft fraud, sequence shifts. She said she was influenced also in other words, these are people involved with the World Trade Center attack. All sides of criminal and civil cases. Judge Smith and these are people involved with the businesses and locations and how and some of the and my own house near schools and Hartford Hospital's campus with overt criminal enterprises and private ones and people sticking databases, predicate acts roles with the departments of campuses and with the different types of teachers and employments with the schools and their family members also having exploited those differences. Don't forget, we have the same color eyes, different color eyes at the same time. We have nature's means as evidences. And these are also people involved with changing, with what's used to get away with changing and faking people's short words, like regarding WFSB has been planting predicate acts with the news through time, with people from Weathersfield, intercities, also involved next to Hartford, Connecticut, the Fox Connecticut News. They're also recorded, confess, demonstrate, confirm their influence to pretend they don't understand it and fake motivations and behavior and to hide this and to pretend not to realize. And in other words, they have delusions that are relative to because they have medical offenders of kids. That's one of the things concentrated with also judges and prosecutors, with their family members, and the difference of them as adults or them as kids, as collusions too, in their syntax where they have wire crimes together and federal evidence as crimes with a whole bunch of different stories that are also used to cover up where the breaching method shows them they have to cover up where and how it used all natures of investigators, and crime scenes to keep others ourselves blamed for things it caused and did and keeps. FBI Director Robert Lusk and his co-defendants have a whole bunch of people next to a body dumper spot of a serial killer, involved with that serial killer, and with my neighbors, involved with them with wire crimes and falsified police, with the police forging and switching names of Weathersfield Police and Whiting Forensics, and the people with the name Phil Colo and Joshua Schumack further involved with the principal upskirt nature and their rules with shopping centers and malls. Rob Rodriguez is also one of the ones who was planting evidences on my field in the form of him making confessions. One time non-verbally walking by, time when I was going to be there. And then the other time coming run the same way, right when I was walking there, time me, and then running on and saying, "Oh, remember that girl I was walking with last time? She's dead of an untimely death." And that's also one of the ones involved with the untimely death at Trinity College, involved with a whole bunch of other natures of organized crime at it and next to it that are evidence as crimes, fact should be nature oriented, and identity theft, frauds, and slanders. FBI also has a Joshua Stryker and a whole bunch of people tied to a Ray Clough and a Jamie Smith involved with corners of streets on Fairlane for themselves. And there's an exception, one exception that comes with demonstrations of the same thing. And increasingly, there's a I don't know where he lives. There's a Subby Bajario who has federal evidence as crimes on the sides of a hike of a school I went to in the past, and framing me for with other people for they broke a window and they tried to get me to do it, and I went like that and threw it on the ground, like I did a feint, threw it on the ground. There are also proofs that a whole bunch of people at Trinity College are involved with the Ray Colo and this Joshua Stryker. I never saw Ray Colo on Trinity College's campus, One time next to it on Zion Street, he has rules with people and his educators in my grammar school that are putting fake things in databases with mayors, family members too, and with police departments throughout Connecticut involved with a Ray Colo and a Phil Colo, and more than one Ray Colo, but a Phil Colo is involved with a Bob Chase, his confessions, and his rules with falsified police reports. Also, then they put a different falsified police report for the same arrest, as one's also increasingly involved with the Saudi attackers, but also with remote uses of the name America by Americans and being used remotely, criminally foreign influence, and by the uses of Saudi Arabia's name, but through Saudis also criminally foreign influence. See, this was his maintenance to like where it is manifest. If you examine the quality aspects and fact-checking nature itself, we have people using words like extremism and radical and counters to it. There are collusions right there, with the exceptions uses too. No, but there are not. But it's one thing to say that we need business or we need diplomacy relative to war. In other words, you guys are leaving out. We have means to stack over and over and over all kinds of logistical security means, and better than free. You know, the suburbs were designed before America's founders were born. The nature of debate regarding such things. It contains quality aspects, natures, and whole methods by it. Whole predicate acts methods are involved here. That's also recorded. I'm not even a lawyer. Weathersfield police have forging and switching names roles with other police departments and with other police types, like Whiting Forensics. Increasingly, Joshua Julian is involved with retired police chiefs and their intimate ties with 80 Carroll Hill Drive. That is also recorded, confessed by other people involved as the cousins of a Phil Colo. I only saw Phil Colo drove a bike shortly on my street shortly after one of the other ones involved further with repeating one of the names they have involved with predicate acts with the kids. They have foreign and domestic medical families that are also at the same time with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and the kids of prosecutors and judges who are involved with identity theft, fraud, slander, and changing and faking audio and video, which filmed on campuses 24/7. So there's a Joshua Stryker who also has some KKK, black themed, Confederate flag themed, Latino themed, and mayors with that Jewish themed, and my algebra teacher with some Jewish themed federal evidences crimes on all sides of my house rolls. Also with the fire departments, with the Russians and Americans, in ways that indicate it might be with the nuclear, and they're using those things to hide life aggressions. Increasingly, people tied to ILO that use my name and pretend involved with identity thefts with the fire departments, like one next to Trinity College, as one's involved with the name Demora, with the FBI director and his co-defendants and their family members, and the educators of a Joe ILO also have rules of predicate acts with him. I don't know their names. I never had a class with Joe ILO. He recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. He planted evidences and fake ties to me, a fake exception after he graduated with his sister at the high school of Weathersfield, and Jennifer Kanapicki has roles with them with people with California with the intelligence. I'm sorry, Jennifer Kanapicki. In other words, it's the people who influence you to lie to you about me behind my back and bringing up that corner. My whole bunch of intelligence families have roles at the corner of the street of Highcrest Street and Hangdog Lane with people that have been on my street identifying, planting evidences, identifying fraud, slanders from other areas, and that's brought up in their confessions with the prosecutors and judges involved with also the Black KKK Confederate flag theme and Latino theme, attaching me to fake communications with police when I was a kid and then as an adult, and with the news. The courts have the news also involved with them with all kinds of natures of organized crime. But to discern it, you have to pay attention to their predicate acts, like wire crime acts and methods, whole methods of wire crime acts and methods, and motivation screening, because the breaching method used at locations and ones next to them through time increasingly as people with and next to the state capitol involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders instances, and with their educators. There are educators of Mark Violet. I never had a class with him, and others tied to him who have been planting evidences on my street with people with the Central Connecticut State University in the brain, and people with UConn involved with a Violet family and a Kolvinskis family with a whole bunch of different countries, people from Korea, people from Germany, you know, also as the kid in Italy, the same ones all together. And they're putting, in other words, a whole bunch of people with Middlesex Community College are involved with the family members of probate court judges that are also intimately involved. And then with my neighbors, and then it's a he said, she said, and they planted fake evidence, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. And they will tell you this, but you have to ask them correctly, because that's also what's recorded. But it's also recorded that they were trying to hide their roles with the uses of them putting their roles within backgrounds, putting fake things as families with the campuses, and then with their kids. They're hurting the kids or the families, or their families working at the campuses. And then these people have the roles with all kinds of medicines crimes with the kids and drugs crimes with the kids, as the ones with the military and the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines. I don't know the Christopher White and the people that they try to make. He's involved with trying to make a fake exception of knowing me at the same time with a Ray Reynolds increasingly involved with the World Trade Center attack people, like with this tomorrow, increasingly involved with people at the World Trade Center and spots next to it, like named Scalora. They said that's their cousin too. And Ninth Circuit Court next to it itself, the court was used from inside it to change the timely stamped legal papers. And that was proven after. And that led up to a 2006 district court case, also with a whole bunch of people on both sides of that case and their sources and their lawyer and the FBI involved with predicate acts against me. And leading up to that, before the World Trade Center attack, in that context and since, and as the ones, that's why they had me attached to fake conversations with WFSB, with themselves and with others, and fake locations with themselves and with others. So I didn't even get to speak. Well, I forced them with judges and prosecutors and the different identities that work with the courts, including security there. There are proof to have the people that pretend to be like someone just going to court, who are one of the people involved with the Smiths, for example, and next to where the Weathersfield police station is now, involved with their doctors too, and with all kinds of forging names, of switching names, and putting fake identity thefts and frauds and things through the mail, and refusing to communicate with me. There are doctors at Hartford Hospital that are offensively recorded, confess, demonstrate, confirm they're involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, forging names, switching names, fake transcripts with me. One's named Leahy, one's named Lombardo. A whole bunch of people in my area recorded, confess, demonstrate, confirm them involved with the intelligence family in my area, planting identity theft frauds with their educators too through time, has roles with various natures of organized crime, identity theft frauds. I never had communications verbally with this one of the with the Lombardos. I don't even know their names. I know one of them is named Joe Lombardo. And there's and people that were in my cooking class 2 times recorded, confessed, demonstrate, confirmed. They have roles with people that have been planting evidence on all sides of my house, and something to do with a Carvel's place tied to a girlfriend of Joe Lombardo. Also involved with a Chris Walters. Also involved with as a stranger when I was a kid and then as an adult, where he was influenced to plant predicate acts roles. He was abused since he was a kid to be only capable of it. And he recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed there's a Bose family. There's a Charlie Bose. I never had a conversation with him in my life. I didn't even know. One woman says it's his sister at Old Town Cafe. And they have something to do with the buildings next to Fox Connecticut News with these Mendez police. And one's named DeMay with differences rackets, with their Jewish themed and Latino themed, and switching names roles, with courts switching and forging names. Even black, white, female judges with some black KKK, Confederate flag themed, Latino themed, Italian themed, and with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, collusions with sticking fake things in databases with kids that aren't even in classes together, but they're in the same grade. And they're making fake exceptions too. They're using exception nature tactically ulterior from how nature does. This side is recorded how they rolls through time already with all sides of criminal and civil cases and with the courts' names themselves sometimes, but then increasingly too, all kinds of other ways. Sequence shifting, all kinds of predicate acts with facts, methods, needs, and natures and collusions at even the courts and the prisons tied to them. These are increasingly people with all kinds of predicate acts, methods, and wire crimes and identity thefts and frauds roles at and next to the state corrections offices, at and next to the Connecticut judicial branch offices too. Weathersfield Pizza House is increasingly involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders with people with all sides of Central Connecticut State University in the Britain, Connecticut, involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and people, all kinds of scam, wire crime acts and methods with the Weathersfield police, forging and switching names. At the same time with them, with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and child abusers, leaders of kids first force. Whole bunch of people on my street tied to a Steven Stocco and a Maria Vizino and her neighbors, involved also with the wire crimes and confessions and the child abusers, leaders of kids years apart, who they had time predicate acts roles with, and with their educators. That's why we need to get people on paper, and they need to say sorry for changing and faking digital evidences to Judge Napolitano, including the difference of the FBI roles. Also, Facebook people had roles with that. And then they tried to obfuscate that too with their roles with the ad placements. I don't know, one of them looked just like a Celeste Wells. I don't know, I never had a class with her. They made one quick exception of me knowing her as one of the people all along Route 175, involved with the leaders of kids that are sticking predicate acts with other nations into databases. A whole bunch of people tied to a Chet Casper are also involved with the Britain Superior Court and Weathersfield Police forging and switching names. I don't know where Chet Casper lives. I don't know his sister's name. But their family, the name Casper, was brought up by some of the people involved with doctors and their patients and people from other countries who have been planting evidences in databases and through the mail, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me since I was a kid, connected as ones involved with the World Trade Center attack. And all this is recorded. So people on Valley Crest Street in Weathersfield tied to ones named John DeMorrow and Joe DeMorrow and Paul DeMorrow. Only one conversation I ever had in my life. He confirmed verbally. His brothers confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, record people with grammar school kids and middle school kids, attaching them to fake locations and ties to other grammar school kids and middle school kids that they don't even know. And they try to take pictures to make fake exceptions, and they just totally fake things. As the roles with the World Trade Center attack, Ray Reynolds, educators of Ray Reynolds also recorded, confessed, and their family members have roles with some prosecutors and drugs and medicine and judges and their family members with drugs and medicines crimes against kids, all kinds of natures of organized crimes against kids, and with the people that run the prisons and their campuses. Forgiveness is so we get this done. You guys have to follow mandated law, stop changing and faking people's words. Get me off the fake conversations with WFSB. with themselves and with others, and about the World Trade Center attack, which is multiple natures of organized crimes. And they have recorded roles of people from Saudi Arabia further involved, but also per a whole bunch of different countries and cultures and a hyper foreign involved here. Again, I explained how we're going to discern this partially.